No, I'm all about doing a bonus thing with music. It's just a matter of finding the time. But I mean, if we sat there and got a list of, I don't know, 10 or 12 at a time, just knocked them out as we went, I'd be all for it. And my wife goes to New York next weekend, so I should have more time depending on how good of a dad I want to be for the weekend.
Do you have any albums in mind? Or?
Well, I guess what are you going for? Do you want like pop culture wise, just to share albums that meant something like to everybody? Or
I was thinking about the concept
personal?
of we have an undisputed classic on the show, and we decide if it's a classic or not. Why don't we do that with a record, a specific, well-known, beloved record?
I can do that. Yeah, I just need a little direction, so that definitely helps. Because otherwise, I'll be like, "Hey, check out this obscure thing you've never heard of."
And then, just do like a song by song conversation.
That'd be fun. All right, let me put this on Facebook and.
So yeah, YouTube guys, that's if you're watching on YouTube right now, that's a reason to subscribe to our Patreon. We might do that. You get a bonus music podcast.
I mean, Metallica's Black Album just turned like 25 or 30 or something like that, and I bought the box set.
Yeah.
So I've been really deep. I'm not even that big of a fan of that particular album. I mean, it's their biggest, but
it was one of the first 2 CDs I ever bought.
Really?
That one and the Devil Use Your Illusion.
Oh, you bought them both? Yeah. This is sacrilege, but I think my first Metallica was Load. So.
No, that's all right. My first piece of music ever was a cassette, Color by Numbers by Culture Club.
Nothing wrong with that.
I just wanted to be Cousin Jeff.
My dad bought me records at first, so I think my very first record was Europe, The Final Countdown. Which, because of that, I still love to this day. I know it's cheesy and goofy, but I'll always have a deep appreciation for it. And then my first cassette was White Lion Pride. And then my first CD was Janet Jackson, Janet, I think. Which doesn't sound like me at all.
to give you a sense of my brilliance as a child, I had myself and my friend Joey had a parody of Final Countdown that we called Final Fart Down, that we did anytime that song came on the radio. You had to make the big fart noise right at the end too.
Did you like have to fart the keyboard part out like that?
We weren't that elaborate,
But it's set up perfect for that.
It is.
No, I got to interview Joey Tempest a couple times, so that was kind of like, it was weird just to, I don't know, talk to your childhood hero, and then you kind of lost touch because they didn't do anything after that for a while. Their new shit is awesome though.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like as good as Thin Lizzy. But anyway, we should get to our regular show. I apologize.
Well, before we do that, though, I also had that experience because I interviewed Michael Sweet from Stryper.
I interviewed him too.
He's cool, right?
Yes, he's very, and I think he was with Boston at the time I did it.
Really?
Yeah. And then he came to
about
Rascals.
the new Stryper record.
And they must have been, I think he just left Boston. There was at the time, a new Stryper record. I don't know which one it was. But then they played Rascals here at just a little dive bar in the Quad Cities. It was so weird. And then, right after that, they were like, he was so proud of being one of the only bands that was the original lineup. And right after that, they kicked their bass player. They fired him because he got a divorce.
Yeah. Oh, man. Hardcore.
And then I interviewed someone from Poison, Ricky Rocket or whatever.
Nice.
And we were he didn't know that had happened. He goes, well, that explains why his wife was on the bus. I was like, this is a podcast. This isn't written. We left it awesome. In. Anyway, cool. For all the YouTubers that get to enjoy a little bit of bonus material. I definitely want to do that because obviously we're 5 minutes in and this is kind of fun. And even if I don't know what you got going on this weekend, but if you want to knock one or two out, I could probably make it work if you have.
Yeah. I think probably Nevermind would be the first one.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Yeah, we can go back and forth and just kind of get a list of maybe 12 together. And then just as we get them done, knock them out and just have them there to release whenever.
Cool.
All right. You ready?
Yes.
I did add Too Soon to it. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one. Yes.
Only because I watched it.
Good.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. Like us there. Follow us, whatever you do there. We're also on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to the show there, click on the bell in the upper right-hand corner to get notifications when we go live, like we are right now. It is episode 500. I just want to let everybody know we're not doing anything special. It just happens to be 500. Mm-hmm. But you can listen to most of the other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers.
And if you want to do like an iceberg video on our Lost Media episodes, go for it. We'd love that.
Yeah.
That's a big thing on YouTube, apparently, is iceberg videos.
What do they do? Just show icebergs with the audio behind it?
They just show an iceberg and then they run through things that, like, here's stuff that everybody can see, here's stuff that's more obscure, and then here's stuff all the way at the bottom that is completely lost that we don't know whatever happened to it.
I'm not doing that. So anybody else wants to go for it. And that's out of touch. I might even know what that was. But if you subscribe to the show, give us a 5-star review. That does help us out. Let us know you did that. We will read your review on the air, and you will win a Blu-ray.
Blu-ray, that's right.
From what company is it again?
Wellgo USA.
Yes. So if you want one of those, please review the show, and we will read the review on the air. Would we ship it internationally?
I'm willing.
All right. I mean, the podcast will pay for it, so I don't know how much that would even cost. Speaking of, I got a funny, just out of nowhere, before we get to the Patreon plugs. I was at a vegan fest over the weekend, which sounds like a ton of fun. Anyway, it was, you just tried different foods or whatever, but there was one that was very metal themed, and I'm a big heavy metal guy, and just a lot of like pretend Satan stuff and pretend metal things. But my wife didn't want to go there because we'd kind of eaten them a lot at that point already, and I didn't want to eat anymore. But I went to their website, and like all their sandwiches cost $6.66, and nice. Really cool shirts and whatever.
Do they have the devil's lettuce?
Yes, kale. They had like Metallica Kill 'Em All. They redid it with Kill 'Em All. They had instead of upside down crosses, it was like a carrot that was it was like the Plantichrist, I think they call it. I mean, all goofy, dumb shit. But anyway, I just thought I'd see what it cost, see if they actually shipped here. So I bought like 3 sandwiches and a shirt, and it was just a few bucks. And I just went and paid, and I didn't really look at shipping until after I hit submit. $110.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow. No, thank you.
No. I don't care how good it is. So I'm still in the process of trying to stop that. It was a cool shirt though. Anyway, that's my story about shipping. It wasn't even international, just Portland. Anyhow, patreon.com/criticspod is the best way to help support the podcast. We, prior to going live, the YouTube listeners, viewers got to see this. We were talking about what we want to do for bonus podcasts. And I think we're going to do some of the music theme. We've been talking about it for a while, but now we're actually starting to put pen to paper and really get something going. And so there'll be a little kind of like an Undisputed Classic, only nothing but that album. We'll just go beginning to end, song for song, and just kind of see where the discussion takes us. So, but that will be future bonus episodes on Patreon if you want to listen to those. And then TeePublic, ihatecritics.net. Up in the right-hand corner, there's a TeePublic link. If you click on that, you can get some of our merch and search for Critics Pod or Everyone's a Critic Podcast if you go to teepublic.com. All right, let's
maybe some new t-shirt ideas.
Yeah, I know. Maybe redo the Willem Dafoe one with him from this movie that we were going to talk about today with that mustache.
Willem Dafoe creeper t-shirt.
Yes, with the hot dog still, but with the mustache.
Jeff, get on that. All right.
Anyway, before we get to that movie, we're going to start with Malignant, the critically acclaimed Malignant.
No. What is happening? What is going on? Why am I so out of touch? Malignant from director James Wan stars Annabelle Wallis as a woman who is in an abusive marriage. Her husband, she comes home from work. Her husband and her have an argument. He shoves her head into the wall, causing her to bleed. And this leads to the emergence of something called Gabriel. So they're related somehow, but we won't reveal that here. No spoilers. But Gabriel is this malevolent being that comes to life and kills her husband and seems to threaten her. Gabriel will go on to threaten everyone she's ever known, including people from this part of her life that she doesn't remember when she was a child at a mental hospital where she was being cared for. And man, I hated this. I hated this beginning to end. I thought this was really, really silly to the point of parody, honestly. The movie is at times so dark you can't see anything. Like the husband gets killed brutally destroyed by Gabriel to the point where like you can see, but it's so dark. All you can see is kind of like, I think that's the top of his spine where his head should be, but I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if that was meant to be funny or if it's just so the cinematography is just so dark that you can't make anything out. Gabriel also has electricity powers for some reason, which totally ruins any opportunity this movie has to be anything based in like a remote reality. Like any kind of naturalism is completely lost because fucking Gabriel's got to turn on the fucking blender for some fucking reason or fuck with the radio for no good reason, to the TV. It's like, why? What, and pardon me, but can anybody explain what Gabriel ever actually does with that fucking power? Other than I guess he uses it to talk. But I mean, beyond that, does that electricity powers ever help him in any way? Does it add anything to the fucking movie? No. You can take that out. It's actually a better movie. Without the stupid electricity powers, it's actually a better movie. Oh man, this is so tiresome. I'm so sick of this movie. And he just makes it over and over and over again. And people just go, oh my God, it's so amazing. What about that twist? Who is it? Fucking Shyamalan? Come on.
The twist sucked ass.
Right? Thank you.
Borderline cheating. I mean, no, it's not borderline. There's no way that twist works. I mean, they're I'm not going to go into what the twist is, but certain people can't be in certain spots if that twist is a real thing.
Right.
And there's movies like this and this isn't even one that would have been better without, I mean, it was just pretty bad and just convoluted the entire time. that I don't even know what could have saved this movie. I think part of the why people like it is because it's so convoluted. Maybe they're just like, this is so weird, it's just amazing. But I've heard people compare it to Argento, and I disagree. I don't think
poster,
it was
maybe the poster font.
Fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I love the poster.
Posters.
Don't get me wrong. Yeah. Get rid of the in theaters and HBO Max and the date, and I'm all over it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movie itself was just kind of a mess. And from the second we turned it on, my wife's like, "What's this crap?" I'm like, "Well, it's the guy who did Saw and The Conjuring and Insidious." And I know you don't like The Conjuring, but I think that has more to do with Ed and Lorraine Warren than it does the filmmaking.
To a point. Some of that, like I've always had a problem with the ghost who's got to move shit around to fuck with people. I've always had that problem. And when this movie got into that early on, I'm like, oh, fuck this. Like I was really, the blender thing pissed me off.
No, I don't like The Conjuring. I don't even remember that happening much. And it was, to me, that was more of a drama. They just happened to have ghosts and blah, blah, blah. But I get, how offensive the movie is for existing because of what they did to Ed and Lorraine Warren. I'm with you on that. So don't get me wrong. I just, as a movie, I enjoyed it. This, I don't, and even Insidious I thought was pretty good. They got worse as they went on. But
yeah, Insidious isn't terrible, but I think that's partially due to Lee Wanell, who doesn't get enough credit for what James Wan has done.
Yeah, that's probably true. But this is just, I don't know if he's just, everybody, it's popular to like what he does, but I don't get it at all. And it's not, I shouldn't say, I get the movie. I don't get why people like this.
No, I don't.
Because it cheats. And if you cheat, I'm out. And even beyond the stuff that you hate, which is there and it doesn't serve a point, the cheating is like not fair. It's just dumb. And
it's so bad. I was watching the discourse on this movie on Twitter, and I was reading this young critic who I do admire talking about this, and he was going on about, oh yeah, my podcast partner we're watching this together, and he was so scared he could barely talk about it. Like his hands were twitching when we were talking about it. I'm like, really? What the fuck was he so scared of?
The big bangs, maybe. I mean, my wife was scared at times, but not like for real. It didn't last. It was just the cheap jump scares that.
It was a cheap horror store. It's like he made this movie just to give the guy who made the score a job, because he's doing all the work. There's a scene where there's one character who works in the Seattle Underground, which is this tourist trap part of Seattle. And she sent everybody home and closing up for the night. She shuts off all the lights. Then she hears a noise down the dark hallway. And does she go to turn on the lights? No. She starts walking down the dark hallway and talking to whatever she thinks is making the fucking noise. Turn on the fucking lights. But no, she doesn't do that. She does the stupid horror movie thing that every fucking horror movie character does. Then when she does finally go back to turn on the lights, then the score does all the work of the jump scare, and we move on to the next scene. Lazy. Fucking lazy.
She's like everywhere in this movie, and she shouldn't be anywhere half the time. I mean, it doesn't make sense how she's getting from place to place. And the visuals aren't good enough. I like you said, it's dark. Nothing stands out. It's just like, I could put that on my wall if I paused it. A movie like this, or Argento, if you're gonna, at least he has that about it, especially the good ones. But I don't see it, and it quite frankly pisses me off with the people that like it.
It really does. Honest. I don't get it. If this was like some kind of B movie tribute, then maybe. But it doesn't feel like that. It has this sort of self-seriousness to it where you can't get to that point. And the acting has, it's deeply, Annabelle Wallis and Maddie Hassan, who plays her sister, they're very much dedicated to this being a serious plot. And they're completely undermined by everything that happens around them.
Yeah, they're trying way too hard for this to be a B movie. I mean, he's clearly, I suppose the poster may have nothing to do with Juan, but based on the poster, he's clearly trying to do something Argento-ish, but I don't think he pulls it off at all. And
no, I don't see that at all. Did you also notice he specifically created a character for his wife in this movie? that has absolutely no effect on the plot whatsoever, other than Ingrid Bisu is actually a more compelling actor than either of the two leads. She plays this character. She's the CSI tech, and she keeps doing these little bits of business where she's flirting with the cop. I think his name is George Young, plays the cop, whose name does all of his work. Kekawa Shaw is an interesting name, but it does all the work of his character is in that name. But because Kekawa is very interesting. But Ingrid Bisu plays this CSI tech, and she repeatedly like has this almost sitcom level attempt at failed flirtation. Like she's just this awkward person who can't seem to say what she's thinking and is constantly put down and made fun of by his partner. And it's like this bit of sitcom business that has no business being in this fucking movie. And she's also just so much more interesting than the two leads.
Yeah, and the direction doesn't help the leads out either.
No, especially Annabelle Wallace is just completely let down beginning to end. She's just made to look very foolish, especially that awful wig that's supposed to cover up what's actually taking place in this movie. That's a really terrible looking wig. It does her no favors.
Yeah, and what's actually taking place isn't even that cool, and they didn't even. I don't know even if you were going to go with the twist, I don't know. I feel like you would have gone in a different direction with how you would pull that. I don't know. Well, one, you don't cheat where you're going to try to throw a twist at people, so they can't possibly guess what happened.
I could actually, I know you say it's cheating, and I don't disagree with that necessarily, but I could buy into this movie without the electricity powers, with the idea of her little mind prison that she has. I can buy into that what's going on then in a little bit, but with the electricity powers that mean absolutely nothing and have absolutely nothing to do with the plot, they're just there because fucking ghosts or demons or whatever the fuck have electricity powers for some reason. I got to turn on the blender.
Right. Yeah, I mean, really lean into the mind prison thing, and not just that would instead of the electricity powers. And make it less convoluted when you do that. There's something there then, and then you could probably do something cool with visuals. But the darkness where you do lose a lot of the picture doesn't make sense. Why you would do something visual and make it dark? I get why you would do that for scary, but it's not original enough to be scary. I don't know. It's just kind of a mess for me.
Yeah, I mean, if he's trying, maybe he's trying to tribute low budget horror, but he's failing miserably.
Yeah, I definitely didn't pick up on that at all. But yeah, if you like this, please come into the comments and tell us why we're wrong. I would love to read it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read reviews and I don't see what they're saying, but whatever.
I'm baffled.
The Card Counter.
The Card Counter stars Oscar Isaac, directed by Paul Sheridan, and co-starring Tiffany Haddish, Ty Sheridan, and Willem Dafoe. This is a movie about a guy who we see as a professional gambler. He doesn't like to take big chances. He likes to play a little bit of blackjack, count the cards, win some money, and walk away. That's his whole thing. Deep in his backstory is the fact that he was a guard at Abu Ghraib and did take part in the torture of terror suspects. And this is something that haunts him and has haunted him for years. He takes a job working for Tiffany Haddish as a sort of a stable person, a member of her stable of gamblers who participate in tournaments and win money. And then they pool the money and everybody makes more money in that way. She also stakes him to give him money to actually gamble with. He does this because he meets Ty Sheridan, who is the son of somebody that he worked with at Abu Ghraib, who seemingly ended up killing himself. And so he feels bad for this kid and wants to do something for him. The kid really wants to get back at the guy who was his boss, his father's boss, and Oscar Isaac's boss, played by Willem Dafoe. I was surprised this movie didn't work for me. I really wanted it to. I wanted this movie to be so very, very good, and I just didn't buy in. Part of it has to do with, I think, the lack of chemistry between Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish. I didn't buy into the romance, but also I'm just not sure what Schrader was trying to say. I don't know what the gambling thing has to say about the Abu Ghraib thing. And I wanted more out of the Willem Dafoe character. Like, that's really the missing piece, is that Willem Dafoe is driving the plot, but he's barely there. He has maybe 2 scenes. And the scene that would be arguably the most important one isn't on screen, which is totally a truly bizarre move. But nevertheless, there's one really, really great scene in this movie. He takes Oscar Isaac takes Ty Sheridan back to his hotel, and he sits him down. And he starts to essentially interrogate him using tactics that he learned at Abu Ghraib, and it's really bold and interesting. And I'm like, this is what I kind of want out of this, is the intensity of Oscar Isaac that I was really looking for, that really sells this. But that's just one scene. The rest of the movie, he's very quiet and really doesn't have much of interest to do or say. On top of which, there's just a couple of things that Schrader sets up and never pays off. One of which is this thing about Oscar Isaac's hotel rooms. He wraps his entire hotel room in sheets, everything, the light fixtures, the TV, the windows, the bed, everything is wrapped in these sheets that he takes everywhere with him. And I keep waiting for this to pay off in some way, and it never does. And it just kind of left me confused. And then there's this professional gambler character who is introduced throughout, wwho he's really obnoxious and over the top. He's a foreigner, but his friends always celebrate his wins by yelling USA, USA, and you keep waiting for that guy to get some kind of comeuppance for being super obnoxious and annoying and winning all the time. And then it just never happens. and he sets up a thing where it's like, oh, is he setting up a ticking clock where Oscar Isaac walks away and does a thing and then comes back just in time to finish the gambling round? No, that doesn't pay off in any way. I don't know. This is a really big miss to me. And there's really, like I said, there's a lot of really good elements. It just doesn't work for me.
I can't decide if it's a big miss for me or if it's just like, it's fine, but it doesn't but it didn't do what I wanted it to do. I can't, like, when we did Hardcore, we kind of noticed Paul Schrader wasn't necessarily the best director for actors. Yeah. You know, he just tells us the story he wants to tell, whether it makes sense or not, but he doesn't really care about how good the actor is in a scene. Like Martin Scorsese, if Scorsese messes a shot up, but the actors are great, he's going to use that shot. But I don't, Schrader's the opposite. And it's inconsistent. Like the chemistry between Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish, like scene to scene, their chemistry is different. like sometimes I bought in it, but most of the time I didn't.
Yeah.
And individually they looked like they were doing a decent performance, but it just didn't, it was just awkward. And I can't blame the actors. One, I know Oscar Isaac's one of the best, so it's definitely not him. And she was kind of doing her shtick, but Paul Schrader just was not tying that together at all. You're right. That scene in the hotel room is amazing. It's fantastic. And I mean, only thing I can think of is that USA guy is the one thing that can get under Oscar Isaac's skin and puts him on tilt, which allows him to lose his mind. But even that's not necessary because something already happened to get him there. So I don't even know what purpose that served. I mean, and I guess it doesn't matter. Everything works in a way, but not enough that I'm like, this was amazing. It's just kind of there. And it was a decision not to go to the other room and watch what was happening. I don't know if you showed if it's any better though, because I don't know. I never really bought. I mean, really, truly, Oscar Isaac's character at this point in his life is boring as fuck. You know, he has a routine. All he does is, and he started with prison. He just the same thing every day. Now he does it in real life. He goes out, he gets a hotel room, covers it in sheets, goes and plays blackjack, goes to the next town, does the same thing over. And so there's not. I don't know. Like usually when you're writing a story, you should have the ability to go in a bunch of different directions, and the author has to decide. I don't know where else he would have gone with this. That would have. I just don't know what he was trying to do or say or.
Why set up the? Is he a germaphobe? Was that supposed to? Was he like? Is that the hotel thing? What What was the point of that? He takes a great deal of time to visually set up Oscar Isaac covering everything in his hotel room with sheets. He sets his an entire scene. It's fully scored, lots of close-ups, lots of determination on Oscar Isaac's face to make sure that everything is covered correctly by his sheets. And then he does nothing with that is not important in any way. It's not like Dexter. He doesn't take a victim in there and murder them or something.
Well, even if he did, there's sheets. So like the sheets aren't going to block the blood. So
I'm just trying to think of something though that would give this justify the attention that this visually, if you're going to visually establish something that to that level, you've got to pay it off. It can't just be a bit of business. You got to pay it off. It's it's just that important. It's like the gun. You introduce the gun in the first act, it's got to go off in the third act. If you're going to introduce the sheets and give it this much attention and detail, you have to pay off the sheets in the final act.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of, and it's not even doesn't really change the movie, is he just likes the routine. But how he gets there to begin with, I don't know. I mean, if he just likes it playing like a prison, whatever it is, it's not enough to spend time on it in the movie. No. And I mean, I get why you sign up for this movie, you know, for Oscar Isaac and Tiffany Haddish and Ty Sheridan and Willem Dafoe. But I don't. This one's getting okay reviews. It's positive on Rotten Tomatoes, but it's not. You would think something like this would be in the 90%. I think it's more like in the upper 60s or something like that.
I think everybody sees the potential of that one scene and they're like, that's a really great scene. And it is a scene that is almost so good it redeems the movie, but it's not. Too much of this movie is meandering off in different directions and never connecting. And that just keeps it from working for me.
Yeah, I would have almost rather they paid off what, I don't know, if they just made the wholesome movie that he was trying to, like Oscar Isaac wanted to happen. It would have been weird but have been nice and pleasant, if nothing else. I don't know. It just kind of a bummer because this is the one I was looking forward to more than any other movie this year so far.
Yeah.
Kate
on Netflix, starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Woody Harrelson. She's a hit woman. She one of the best hitters in the business. She never misses, what we learn early on. And early on, she kills a man who happens to be the father of a young girl played by Miko Martineau. And she sort of breaks one of her own rules, is that she kills the guy in front of his daughter, which is one of the rules that she and Woody Harrelson have about killing people. Down the road, about 8 months or so, she finds herself wanting to get out of the business because of this, and she's thinking about retirement. And she ends up having a one-night stand with a guy, and she wakes up the next day having been poisoned by polonium. She's got about 24 hours to live, and she's going to spend that time trying to find out who it was that poisoned her and kill them before she dies. And interesting plot. It's a cool looking movie at times. Mary Elizabeth Winstead is really cool. They do a lot to put her over. It's really predictable. It's really predictable where this is headed. And part of that, I think, is the problematic casting of Woody Harrelson. If you can't see where that character is going, you're not trying, because the movie's not really trying to hide anything. And she's got to pretend to be ignorant. And it's so much of this movie is so cool. It's unfortunate that's part of it. There's a lot, like I said, the movie's got a cool look to it. I like the anime inspired touches. The soundtrack is really cool. This J-pop soundtrack that they've got going on is really awesome. So there's a lot of really good things about this movie. I do like it. I just don't have any strong feelings about it other than, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I didn't finish it, but I did start it, and I didn't turn it off because it was bad or anything. I just ran out of time. I like her a lot in general. Woody Harrelson I usually like, but I don't know. It's fine. It was entertaining. I might go back and finish it, but I'll probably never see it again. But I mean, I was liking it more than the other two so far.
Yeah, it's better than the other two movies.
What about sorry, I'm on the wrong Capote tapes. I have them out of order. We're gonna get to a classic based on
The
Capote
Capote
later
tapes,
on.
yeah.
But anyway, tell me about this document.
The Capote tapes is
about
a series of tapes that were made by George Plimpton, who is a famous writer himself, who made these tapes sometime around the time that Capote had passed away, interviewing many of Capote's so-called swans, these very rich women that befriended him and made him a big part of their circle. And his sort of examines the growing resentment that he felt towards his friends over the years for, yes, sort of being his friend, but also kind of befriending him as sort of a court jester, somebody. He's like something special that they bring to parties. He's not. Is he really their friend, or is he just entertaining enough at parties that they like having him around? And that's really kind of something that he lived with throughout his life, was that feeling that as much as these women seem to care about me, they don't really care about me. They just want me around to make them laugh and make them look good because I'm an artist and a famous writer and I'm really witty. And that dichotomy is very interesting. This is directed by Ebbs Burno, who's a pretty good director, and he seems to set up the final book of Truman Capote's career, which was called Answered Prayers, as this sort of mystery that it contains all of Capote's sort of secret feelings about his longtime friends and how this book was going to be this big scandal. And it became a sort of a big scandal throughout the end of his life, about him releasing pieces of it and never finishing it. And I actually, to the point where I didn't do much research beyond watching the documentary, so I came away from the documentary thinking that the book ended up being a mystery. And one of our Facebook people actually had to tell me that no, that book actually did come out, and I appreciate that. Thank you to whoever that is that told me that, because honestly, I didn't know. The book actually came out 2 years after he died, in some form. Whether it was the final form that he intended, it's hard to say. He was dead at the time. But I honestly, the way the documentary plays, it plays as if Answered Prayers was sort of a mystery that he never got around to finishing. And maybe he didn't. Maybe they just put out what they had as the sort of finished book. And maybe the misunderstanding is, I think the misunderstanding is reasonable on my part. Although I could have just looked on Amazon to see if the book had come out or not. But
well, I mean, it didn't come out in the form he wanted it to, and he didn't release it. So
yeah. But yeah, the documentary is
still kind of a mystery.
It's a little faulty, though, for the documentary not to mention that the book did actually come out. So that's a bit of a fault. But overall, I found this to be an interesting way to approach Capote and his story, because his life story has been told so many different times. There were two biopics about him made within a year of each other in 2005 and 2006. And there have been a number of documentaries that have covered In Cold Blood and Breakfast at Tiffany's and the various, and his interviews with Dick Cavett are basically like their own documentary over the years. And so there's a lot about him. So you need to find an interesting way to approach his life that hasn't been done before. And Burno finds that through these very interesting tapes that apparently had not been uncovered before, and certainly not played before. I don't know what George Plimpton ended up doing with them.
Yeah, I didn't get to see this one. I couldn't find it when I was looking. But then
sorry about that. I thought it came out on stream.
It may have, but it wasn't there Friday and Saturday. I was out of town at the vegan thing, and then Sunday only had so much time. But it looks interesting, and we will get to In Cold Blood later on as our classic. But for now, let's move on to Queen Pins.
Yes, Queen Pins. It's another bad movie. Kristen Bell stars in Queen Pins as a woman who loves coupons. She's a former Olympic athlete. She competed in speed walking, which the movie thinks is a very funny joke, that she was in an Olympic sport, speed walking. It's not a funny joke, guys. It's a real sport. I know it's kind of silly, but it's not a funny joke just to mention it. She and Kirby Hall-Baptiste, who plays her neighbor, are both really into couponing. They spend a lot of time looking for coupons and picking them up and taking them to the store. And getting great deals. And then one time she tries some Wheaties that she got on one of her deals and they're stale. So she sends a letter to the company and they send her back a free coupon. And she starts looking into it and finds that if you complain, every company will send you a free coupon. And so this develops into the idea, well, what if I get a bunch of free coupons and then sell them online, and then people can get half-priced Wheaties and I can take their money off the free coupon. And she discovers, in fact, that the company that makes these coupons is right across the border in Mexico. So she hatches a further plan to go to Mexico and convince somebody who works there to give her and her friend this a full box of these free coupons that they can then sell on their website and make a bunch of money. Of course, they're not well versed in being online criminals and frauds, so they seek out a character played by Bibi Rexha, who happens to be a character who had stolen Kirby Baptiste's character's identity in the past, and they use her as this sort of hacker to cover up their money, and they start making more money than they could possibly ever explain, so they actually really do need her help. And really, the scenes with Kristen Bell, Kirby Baptiste, and Bibi Rexha are the funniest parts of this movie. They're really good because it really appears like Kirby and Kristen are trying to break Bibi Rexha, like they're trying to make her laugh, like they're doing these big sort of broad comic gestures almost in a way to try and get her to break. And you can sense where the movie's having a great deal of fun in those scenes. The rest of the movie, though, is just not nearly as much fun. Kristen Bell and Kirby Baptiste are lovely, but there's this other part of the movie with Vince Vaughn and Paul Walter Hauser that is not very good. Paul Walter Hauser is a loss prevention specialist. He's he gets the job of trying to seek out where all these free coupons are coming from and trying to uncover the fraud. And Vince Vaughn is a postal inspector who comes into the case because obviously they're mailing these things. It's mail fraud. And the joke about him is that he's not a real cop or a real member of law enforcement because he's a postal inspector. But Vince Vaughn never lives into the joke. Like, never once does he think he's anything less than the coolest person alive. Never once does he think he's anything less than Vince Vaughn. So the joke about him being a postal inspector never lands. And on top of that, his dynamic with Hauser is that he's kind of bullying him a little bit. Like, he's dismissive of him. He's mean to him. And he's supposed to be kind of bonding with this guy and becoming his friend. And it just doesn't work. And on top of which, Hauser's character is just the butt of every joke. He's tubby and he's kind of awkward, and he answers the phone when he's on the toilet. I mean, he's the subject of every joke, but none of the jokes are funny. And his being pathetic isn't funny. It's supposed to be he's pathetic is the joke. And I've tired of that joke a long time ago. I really have. And it's just mean-spirited and it doesn't fit with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I didn't even know this movie existed. And then I recognized the name. I think I saw the name pop up a few times. And then when I printed the poster, I'm like, holy shit, Kristen Bell, Vince Vaughn, and Paul Walter Hauser. And I didn't hear about this movie. I mean, it looks like shit, don't get me wrong. But
it's a bad looking movie on top.
Actors.
You made a point. You made an interesting point there, though. That it is a bad looking movie. Like, the production design, the costumes are terrible. And this is yet another one of those Hollywood movies where Kristen Bell's character is defined as being either lower middle class or middle class by having bad hair. And It's distractingly bad hair. Like, the entire movie, I don't get hung up on people's hair, but I was hung up on just how bad her hair was. And I just wanted, when she got the millions upon millions of dollars she starts making, I just wanted her to attack her with a hairstylist. Just do something about that. She's Kristen Bell. I know you want to try and dowdy her up to be a middle class, type of sort of wannabe mom, but this isn't working, pal. Bad haircut's not going to cover up Kristen Bell.
Yeah, I like her so much, and I just wish she would make less Dax Shepard choices. If that makes sense.
Why Dax Shepard didn't get the Vince Vaughn role, I don't know, because he's so much better for that. It's so much more his kind of role than it is Vince Vaughn.
Yeah, I don't know if he just want to work with Paul Walter Hauser or what, but I don't know.
He just seems tired too, Vince Vaughn. He seems like he's tired.
In fairness, though, whenever he's not talking, he seems tired. Well, when he's talking, he's so full of energy. But he does. You're like, even this poster, like you're saying, he's supposed to be the butt of the jokes, and he kind of looks like a badass to the point where it almost doesn't even look like Vince Vaughn. It's a shame. Maybe if I'm doing absolutely nothing else on Netflix.
Like I said, there's some actual laughs in this. Like there are actually some laughs in that movie. It is just it's a shame.
Well, yeah, I mean, with that talent, you're gonna make someone laugh a little bit, I think. But
yeah, I wanted more Bebe Rexha. Honestly, Bebe Rexha is not a great actress, but I wanted more of her because the energy in those scenes are so great.
All right, the next movie, Language Lessons.
Language Lessons. This one's really emotional for me. This is the best movie of the week. Mark Duplass and Natalie Morales star in this movie. His husband has given him a gift of Spanish lessons being taught over Zoom, because this is a movie that was made during the lockdown. And so he's paid like a lot of money to get these language lessons. So he surprised Mark Duplass with this, and Natalie Morales is his teacher. She's in Costa Rica, but she's teaching him Spanish nevertheless over Zoom. And something happens that shifts their entire dynamic. His husband dies about a week into their lessons, and he doesn't really have anybody to support him. And the only thing he has is this. Every week he's taking these Spanish lessons. So he kind of comes to rely on her a little bit, and she kind of encourages it early on by being there and letting him speak Spanish to her, but talk about what's going on with him. And she's trying to kind of draw him out and help him to recover a little bit. And the relationship is so sweet and so beautiful. And it's obviously, he's a gay man, so it's not a romantic thing. It's just somebody being kind to a complete stranger in a way that is very moving. It's very moving to find that level of compassion. And then something happens with her, and she reveals something about herself, and there are little, divides between the two of them, little arguments, little breakups here and there between them that are really not forced. The dialogue and their interactions are so good that you buy into every last bit of their humanity and why they're acting the way they're acting. And especially there's just this wonderful scene where she calls him in the middle of the night totally drunk, and it's just one of the most charming drunk scenes I've ever seen in a movie. I love this film. Natalie Morales and Mark Duplass wrote the screenplay together, but I imagine they just kind of sort of came up with a lot of the dialogue on the fly because it feels so natural. And she was the director of this, so she gives it shape. And it might not seem like a movie that has a lot of direction to it because it is entirely over Zoom, but the direction that there is, she's not going to get enough credit for, because there's a lot more direction that goes into this than she's ever going to get credit for. It's an incredible movie, and it's one of my favorite things of the year. And I forgot to even tell you about it, so I'm a genius.
Yeah.
Sorry about
that.
No,
but it's the same thing. It was like I went and got the poster, and I'm like, oh, Mark Duplass and Natalie Morales. I love these two.
I'm an idiot. Yeah, I know.
No, it's not. I don't know if I would have been, because
I watched it earlier in the week, and I wrote this very emotional review about it, and then I kind of had to separate myself from it because it was so emotional. Right. And yeah.
Well, when things come out on Fridays, it's hard to, especially when I have, like, we had the vegan festival and went and saw Alanis Morissette. So I lost all of Saturday, which means not even one movie gets in. So it's possible I wouldn't have seen it either, although in hindsight, obviously, Malignant wouldn't have been watched. But I did watch this Too Soon, Comedy After 9/11.
Yes, this is directed by Nick Scown, who takes an interesting tact on approaching September 11th and September 11th content. He wanted to look at the way the comedy world reacted to September 11th, and that's a really interesting idea. And there was a lot of interesting things that happened to comedy after 9/11. You have just the number of ways that comedy reacted, like, everybody turning to David Letterman to see what Letterman's going to do and how he handles it, and that's how we'll handle it. You have the emergence of the Daily Show and sort of this turn from kind of being to being very satirical to being satirical, but now taking on actual issues. And Jon Stewart, his rather incredible evolution to becoming one of the most relied upon voices in America for a number of years before he stepped away. One of the most fascinating and really awesome elements of this is a piece on the Onion, and how the Onion wrote their September 11th release, their edition. They just moved to New York at the time, and somehow after this happened, they've got to put out a comedy newspaper, and how they handle that is so incredible. And this documentary has this footage that was captured by Onion staff members at the time as they were doing it, and it's so incredible to watch that creative process and watching them just come up with, how do we joke about this? And the way they choose to do it, it turns out to be like an amazingly smart, funny, incredible thing that to this day I still have that edition, and I still it was like the first thing that made me laugh after September 11th was that thing, one of their headlines, hugging up 76,000%. That hit me in just the right way. I needed that line. That one was, it's just perfect. It was a perfect headline among many that they had.
Oh yeah, and the holy fucking shit was perfect. I mean, it wasn't even necessarily funny, it was just necessary.
Right. Or life turns into a bad Jerry Bruckheimer movie. Like, that's such a great line. And so needed. And it's like, again, that was another one that was one of the first things I laughed at after September 11th. Is some things don't work, like the SNL stuff is way too kind. I don't think SNL did anything very special, in my opinion. I get that they were shell-shocked. I understand that. I just don't think that anything SNL has done in the past 20 years has been that impressive. And to place them among this, yeah.
I mean, the show itself, you're right, but I mean that opening monologue was pretty popular. I remember it like it was yesterday. I don't know that it was. I mean, it was a safe, easy joke. Why start now?
Yeah.
But that's kind of where, I don't know.
It kind of comes to define everything that they do from now on, though. Why start now? The safest possible joke is just that's the definition of SNL. But my favorite part of this documentary is the Gilbert Godfrey thing, because I'd forgotten what he did to come back from his September 11th jokes, because he makes these two amazingly awful jokes about September 11th, like just awesomely offensive, completely loses the audience. He's at the Friars Roast of Hugh Hefner, and so to bring the audience back, he launches into the Aristocrats, and by the time he's done, he's won the entire crowd back.
Yeah,
with the worst, most off-color joke in history,
which inspired its own documentary called The Aristocrats. Where I found out Bob Saget was great. Yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed the kind of seeing how the sausage is made and kind of all of their experiences during 9/11. I didn't care for because they didn't really dig into it. Like Mark Maron mentioned something about how that's where the lines are drawn in comedy, where you pick one side, and they mention it, but then they just move on.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time. There's a little bit of patting themselves on the back as a whole. Like, you got to be able to make these jokes, and that it wasn't bad. It just didn't add anything to the movie. And maybe I missed the whole part, but I thought there was going to be more on like Jeanine Garofalo, Mark Maron, and David Cross. They were in it a lot, but I don't feel like they got the attention. Not that they deserved what Letterman got, but I just kind of feel like they popped up, but there wasn't a section on that underground scene that I thought there was going to be. Not that it mattered. I mean, it was. I enjoyed it. Just
that in that Jeanine Garofalo segment, though, I thought they could have gone a little bit further in demonstrating, how Fox News really. They, instead of they made specific choice to go after her because she's a woman. That was why they did it. They didn't go after anybody else. They didn't go after Marin. They didn't go after Cross. They didn't go after any of the other hardcore left-wing comedians. They chose her because she's a woman. And I thought they could have gone a little bit further in making that point.
Yeah, I agree too. At the same time, I'll admit I didn't know who David Cross, Mark Maron were back then. I did know Jeanine Garofalo. I don't know if there are any other comedians at the time that were part of that group. But I mean, I'm sure people knew David Cross and Maron at that point. I just personally didn't. But I didn't even remember that part that you're talking about. So I feel like maybe there was a section missing, or maybe I dozed off or something. So, I mean, we talked about it last week, so maybe I was waiting for it, and maybe something happened where I didn't see it. Mm-hmm. But overall, I mean, I always enjoy anything about how the sausage is made kind of thing. And I love, like, comedy I find is very interesting. And even if I don't agree with it, I like the process of it. And, you know, even, I don't know, it's neat because to what Jon Stewart was then and what he is now, and then you just kind of watch it, people's publicity and how in a lot of ways, and you know, I've always been a fan of Jon Stewart, but he almost got too popular, and it was kind of cool that he walked away, because when you can affect that many people, and I still think he has that effect on people, that's not always a great thing. And you know, Joe Rogan has it now, and unfortunately he's a little bit weirder.
Yeah.
And that level of popularity is not safe. And so I don't know. I would love to see something on that, you know, because I don't know. That's kind of what I'm interested in right now. It has nothing to do with this documentary, but getting to that level of popularity where you are almost a cult leader, you know, Trump, even Bernie Sanders to an extent. It's neat to just kind of, again, nothing to do with this. It's just where my mind goes, and I want to see that. So somebody make it.
Another aspect of this that I did like also was how he makes a great deal of time for Arab comedians or Muslim comedians to talk about how they had to react to this, because obviously they were in a completely bizarre situation. Like one of the female comedians mentioned something about how before this she was making dick jokes and what it's like to date as a Muslim woman, and now she's got to turn it all around into something political. Like suddenly she's got to be really serious because everybody's making all these serious things about her. She's like, I just wanted to do dick jokes. I thought it's great. And yeah, Maz Jobrani is very, very thoughtful on the subject, and Russell Peters also, and even a couple of the Indian comedians were like, wait a minute, no, I'm not a Muslim. What are you talking about? What are you doing to me here?
Right. The whole
movie opens with that clip from The Big Stick where Ray Romano
best 9/11. Yeah.
So 9/11, huh? We lost some of our best guys.
The best 9/11 joke of all time. And then even him on stage talking about, well, no, I'm not Muslim. Not that you should hurt Muslims, but if you're going to. He does such a great job of, because it's so real too, though. I mean, you have to break. It's just such a fascinating joke that I don't know. There's aspects of this I liked a lot, and I didn't hate anything of it. It was just kind of like, on some of it. And then clearly I missed part of it that I wanted to see. But I do recommend it. It is on Vice. I know you told me that and I forgot. It was going to be on Hulu once it aired on Vice, but it hadn't aired yet. So when you sent me the link, I could watch it there. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend people who like stand-up comedy. It's worth watching. And even if you don't, it's neat to, I don't want to say if you're a fan of 9/11, that's not what I mean. But if you're interested in that subject matter, kind of seeing it from that perspective.
It's a unique approach to that history.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our classic, In Cold Blood.
In Cold Blood, directed by Richard Brooks and starring Robert Blake, and his guy's name is Wilson. I can't remember his first name for some reason, but In Cold Blood tells the story that was originally written by Truman Capote, his book In Cold Blood, about the murders of the Clutter family. The Clutter family was murdered in November of 1959 in the middle of the night by two men who they had no idea who they were. They would just one of them got a tip in jail about a farmhouse where the farmer might have a lot of money stored in a safe. He gets out of prison. He grabs his buddy and they go to Kansas and they go looking for the safe and they end up murdering the entire family. It's a shocking and terrifying story that in Capote's book is endlessly compelling. Like I reread In Cold Blood this week because I wanted to, because it's such a compelling book, and he tells that story so incredibly well about, just telling you who this family was, and to the point where you're like, you listen to it on I was listening to it on Audible and just like, wow, it's the way this is told. I kept thinking of it as a thriller where somebody might be able to step in at the last moment and stop it. Obviously they can't, but this movie does not live up to that for my feeling at all. The thing that really bugged me and it just kept me from getting into this movie in any way is the score. This jazz score, it is so loud throughout this entire movie. It just keeps interrupting the film to be so very loud, to the point where the characterization that I was looking for isn't there. I didn't feel that either of these guys really captured the characters that Truman Capote was telling us about, because Capote has the benefit of words and detail that he can give us, and these guys, they don't have that. There's not enough time in this movie to give the kind of detail. And so I had the advantage of watching the movie and kind of bringing those details to the movie. But if you're watching this without the details that I had, I can imagine you being very bored and kind of going, is it going to get somewhere? They're going to show the murders or something? Like, where is this going? And so, yeah, this was disappointing because I heard a lot of really great things about this movie.
This, for me, was one of those movies where I could tell it was good in its time, but it definitely doesn't hold up. Like, I feel like I had to bring a lot to it and I hadn't read the book, but I had to feel like I had to put myself mentally in, what was it, 1968 or whatever, and it was made, and just watch it through that lens. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I get it. I get why people liked it then, but I can't imagine showing anybody today and being like, this is so good, it's timeless, you'll love it, because it's not. It's definitely not timeless. I mean, I don't think this movie could exist today. I don't think you could go to the actual crime scenes and shoot movies. I mean, even Tarantino doing something on Charles Manson had Sharon Tate's family upset, and they didn't even do a whole lot with it. I can't imagine. I mean, and maybe it's a different scenario, but like, it was a big deal that they went to the crime scenes and reshot everything where it happened at the time. And even reading Ebert's review about how it was more of a documentary than a movie, again, maybe at the time, but I don't think it holds up. I do think it's an interesting story. I got enough of that out of it without reading the book that I think that the interest level of it alone is enough, but it just isn't a movie that holds up, however many years later.
What did you think of the score? Did you enjoy the score, or did you find it as intrusive as I did?
It was, I didn't enjoy it. I honestly, what threw me off most was the actual crime scenes being, there. That threw me off more than the score itself. But at the same time, seeing Quincy Jones' name all over of it, it's almost like, I don't know who he was in 1968. I'd imagine he was pretty big to have his name all over it like that. Mm-hmm. But I definitely feel like it was more self-serving than it was serving the movie, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, to me, I don't think there's ever been a score this loud over a movie. Honestly, like, this is so, like, the mixing, maybe I just got a bad version on Amazon or something. The mix just seemed to put the soundtrack at such a volume that I wanted to turn it down. I really hated
it doesn't fit the
it doesn't
mood.
fit. No. Absolutely, it doesn't. It sinks the movie in so many ways for me.
It's almost like when you watch a movie with too many personalities in it, and now you're throwing Quincy Jones' personality in through the score. I mean, you already got Capote, you got Richard Brooks, you got now you got Quincy Jones, and I mean, again, I think it probably worked in its time, but it definitely doesn't hold up. And it wasn't a big deal of like one of the first R-rated movies or something like that, or they weren't. I don't know. I read something online about movies weren't rated R yet, and it got a big warning label ahead of it.
The one thing that holds up, is the performance of Robert Blake, because of course he goes on to be an actual murderer.
That is true.
It's terrible.
Yeah, but that's a reason that kind of took me out of it too. You're in actual crime scenes. You have an actual murderer doing the murdering. So I don't know. I mean, watch
spoiler alert.
1991. Freddy died.
Freddy's dead. The Final Nightmare.
Maybe
probably the worst of the Freddy movies. For being honest, this one is just. It's directed poorly. They've totally lost the plot in terms of trying to make it scary. They're leaning more into comedy.
Pop culture. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is full blown, almost. I don't want to call it meta, but I mean, they're clearly. I mean, maybe it is, but they're clearly making jokes about themselves. I mean, Johnny Depp's in it again.
But it doesn't have any. It doesn't have the talent to be funny. It really doesn't. It doesn't have the ability to actually be funny. It does. Now, I will say this about the movie, that it being as bad as it is and being the worst Freddy movie, it lowered expectations for Final Nightmare so much that actually that movie, the actual Final Freddy movie, was actually really good. Mostly because this one is so terrible and set the bar so low.
The New Nightmare one.
New Nightmare, yes.
Came back.
Yes.
Yeah, that was really good.
That's a good movie. I like that one. But it's helped a lot by how bad this is.
I guess I hadn't seen this one at the time. I that said though, I do think this helps get you ready for Freddy versus Jason. Like it allows him to be more of just a casual character instead of this evil maniac. That makes that movie more watchable. And I don't know, I've never been a huge Freddy fan. I like a couple of the movies. I like the first one. I like the New Nightmare, the Wes Craven ones.
Yeah.
And the other ones, even when I get there's some relevant culture stuff going on in some of the early ones too, but I just think the movies themselves don't hold up.
No. And I really, honestly, I could barely tell this one apart from Dream Warriors and the video game. Is this the video or is the video game one before? I don't. Really,
I was going to ask you that.
I can't even honestly. Like number 3, even from between 3 and 6, those movies just are so completely mixed up in my mind that I can't even pull them apart.
Yeah, I feel like the video game ones in this one, but it could have been the one before. And I mean, I don't know.
That said, I mean, each one of them goes a great deal and goes heavy on production design in a way that I appreciate. Like there's a lot of effort that goes into the practical effects of Freddy killing people. So I do appreciate the effort. I just think in this version, especially this final movie, or this sort of final movie, that it doesn't work because it's just Freddy's gone so far around the bend from genuinely scary to comedy that it just doesn't work anymore.
But the reason it worked then is because kids kept getting older. So every 3 years or whatever, you had a new round of kids who had, this is their introduction to Freddy. Yeah. And everybody knew him, but it was, they're starting with this one, or they're starting with one before, whatever. So it worked for those.
It's like he became a meme.
Right. Yeah.
The Flanderization of Freddy just is this is the original Flanderization.
Oh, I remember seeing a list once, and Roger Ebert commented on it, and it was like the greatest characters of all time. And Freddy and Jason were both ahead of Rocky. And Roger Ebert just lost his shit, saying, I mean, I understand the pop culture relevance, but Rocky, really? Not to mention every other characters that were probably left off the list that should have been higher than those two.
Yeah.
Also in 91, a movie called Dogfight. I don't know what that is offhand.
Yeah, I don't either.
Leave us strong. Next week, we got Clint Eastwood Crying Macho, or Cry Macho. But he may be crying.
The name of his cock. It's funnier when I say it.
Yeah, it's like almost that should be your shirt. I just don't know how you do it, so you can wear it. we gotta quit making shirts.
It's just a picture of a chicken and me pointing at it going, it's the name of his cock. And Cry Macho.
A movie called Collection, Giddy Stratospheres, Bestsellers, and Cop Shop. Our classic is The Outlaw Josie Wales. And there's a shit ton of movies from 1991. The Fisher King, The Indian Runner, Late for Dinner, Rambling Rose, Mississippi Masala, and one with Don Johnson and Melanie Griffiths, Paradise, I think it's called.
Many of those aren't available, so that'll save us some time.
Yes, and we've done The Fisher King before, so we probably don't have to do that one again. Unless we're bored, we'll see how that week plays out. Speaking
of just about Jeff Bridges, good news today. I don't know if you heard, Jeff Bridges is in remission. He is awesome. His cancer is in remission, and he said that actually having COVID was worse than his cancer fight.
Oh, nice. So he didn't take horse dewormer.
Yeah,
that's good. I appreciate that. Former guest of the podcast, Jeff Bridges, no less.
Icon, legend, and guest on this show.
Yeah. All right. I got to make it somewhat quick, but let's do a couple of rounds of Flick Chart. Little Manhattan, Vanilla Sky.
Never heard of Little Manhattan.
Kung Fu Hustle, Vanilla Sky.
Vanilla Sky. There's a weird online fandom for Kung Fu Hustle though that I don't quite get. I didn't find that movie very funny when it came out. Yeah. If you watch react, I watched some reactors who watch movies for the first time and react to them, and Kung Fu Hustle is a popular title in that genre for some reason.
Huh. Valkyrie, The Goonies.
Valkyrie.
Like Goonies enough off the it's not.
I'm like the outlier on Goonies who just I'm the only one who doesn't like it.
I win. I always feel bad because you're the critic whenever unless it's like Rocky or the Devil's Rejects, I feel bad. Strangers on a Train.
Ooh, wow. Hitchcock or Hitchcock? I mean, I love Rope, but I think Strangers on a Train is a little stronger.
Yes, it was in a Rope. Which one is Strangers on the Train again?
The guys who trade murders was the inspiration for Throw Mama from the Train.
That's right. Yeah, I'll go with you on that one. I think.
I remember you and Josh having a lot of misgivings about Rope.
I mean, I liked it. I remember it more. That was more of a stage play, and I remember liking Jimmy Stewart a lot, but then kind of feeling like he was in a different. I don't know. It was.
I think
I liked it for what it was.
I thought they're both incredible. I just think Strangers on a Train is a little bit tighter.
Yeah. Avengers Endgame, Coming to America.
Avengers Endgame for me. I hate Coming to America.
Endgame is pretty good. I do like Coming to America, but I'll go with that Endgame.
I don't even love Endgame that much. I just really hate Coming to America.
Yeah. Popeye, Casino.
Casino.
It's a weird comparison, but I agree. Tangled, Stigmata, another weird one.
Tangled.
Finding Dory, The Incredibles.
Finding Dory.
Agreed. Donnie Brasco, Tommy Boy.
Donnie Brasco.
Yeah, not a
Tommy Boy's a guilty pleasure, though.
See, that it never was for me. I don't hate it or anything. I just wasn't one that watched it a lot. Man Who
Okay, this is
Goats.
this is weird. We were just talking about Jeffrey. This fucking website's listening to us, man.
Yeah.
It's Fisher King, but yeah, Men Who Stare at Goats was really disappointing.
Yeah, I like Fisher King quite a bit.
Julia Roberts versus Julia Roberts.
Yeah, My Best Friend's Wedding or The Mexican.
My Best Friend's Wedding.
Grease, and not a movie.
Although I would have picked that.
As would I. Grease or Big Trouble in Little China?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. American Psycho, Police Academy 5, Assignment, and Beach.
American Psycho.
Have you ever heard of this band Ice Nine Kills? The last two albums have been all about horror movies, and they write songs about the movies. And they did the song is mediocre at best, but it's just, the video is awesome. They just kind of reenact American Psycho. I was pretty impressed.
Interesting.
My son's into them, and it's weird being the old man trying to get into 9-year-old music. But being a fan of horror movies, and specifically American Psycho, that was helped. Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, or Jack Frost, 1998.
Mission Impossible by a lot.
What about the horror movie Jack
Frost? Yeah, that one sucks too.
Clue, Superman Returns.
Clue.
See, I didn't watch this when I turned 30. I mean, I've seen Clue, but I don't have any real memory of it. I liked Superman Returns a lot when it came out, but I'll go with Clue.
It's appropriate that Kevin Spacey's a villain.
Fair point. Clue can win. Traffic or Annie Hall?
Annie Hall.
Yeah.
Appropriate that he ends up alone at the end.
Only he would in real life. Psycho 1998, American Gangster.
American Gangster.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, 09, not Fincher. Or Enter the Dragon.
I mean, I like Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. I think it's a good movie. But if you're asking what I'm going to watch Enter the Dragon. It's just an easier watch.
Yeah. And I'm not really tied to it. I'd probably pick Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Like, I know Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a better movie. Like, in terms of just, filmmaking and storytelling, it's a better movie. But Enter the Dragon is fun.
Yeah, I mean, I went out and bought the books and everything after seeing that. So I'd be doing myself a disservice to not at least flip the coin. You win anyway.
Sure. All right. It's very, very reasonable.
The World According to Garp, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
I don't remember if I've ever seen The World According to a Garp, honestly.
I know the name. I couldn't tell what it's about. Aaron Brockovich, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective.
Aaron Brockovich.
A Serious Man, Rush Hour.
A Serious Man.
Absolutely. Oh, fuck this. Your least favorite movie versus one of mine. Sweet Home Alabama or Rudy?
It's Rudy all the way for me. I hate Sweet Home Alabama so much.
You know, I guess the Rudy can have it. That movie sucks ass so bad.
It's not a great movie, but it doesn't take much for me to beat Sweet Home Alabama.
Yeah, Tropic Thunder, Pretty in Pink.
This is tough for me. I really love Pretty in Pink. Like, I really love Pretty in Pink a lot. Tropic Thunder is really funny. Man, I think I'll take Pretty in Pink because I think Tropic Thunder does overstay its welcome just a little bit.
It's probably true, but I'm not a fan. really any of his movies.
Yeah, it's
And
understandable.
I feel bad, but I remember when we did the Breakfast Club, I was like, why are we not seeing the same thing? And it is Tails. Rise of the Planet of the Apes 7.
7. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a good movie, though.
Yeah. Her, Superman 4, Quest for Peace.
Her.
Her's fantastic.
Yeah.
Quiet Place, Witness.
I don't know. What do you think?
I think Witness.
Yeah, I think so too.
Quiet Place, I know it was beloved, but I was just like, there was too many questions for me to just call it one of those movies and then go back to and watch a lot. Witness is at least good.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Me, Myself, and Irene, House of Wax, 2005. 2 movies I could give 2 shits about.
No, they're both bad, but at least Me, Myself, and Irene is bad as in an interesting way.
That is true. Sister Act 2,
Fuck.
One Fine Day.
Jesus Christ. Good. Oh, God. Which one do I hate less? Oh, fuck. Michelle Pfeiffer's pretty. I'll take that one.
I was just going to say George Clooney's pretty. That's not that Whoopi Goldberg's not. If it was Sister Act 1, I probably would have gone with Sister Act 1. Lincoln, Fun with Dick and Jane.
Lincoln.
Yeah, The Pacifier, you don't mess with.
For fuck's sake. Which way are you going? Because I'm not voting on either one. They both suck.
Yeah, this movie, they don't deserve a vote. I would have gone with just about any Adam Sandler movie over this.
Yeah.
And not even like, I'm like, Vin Diesel's really turned me off lately. And I know that's been fun for some people, but this mess with the Zohan is
so terrible.
Even for Sandler, it's bad. So I'm not voting. Podcast over. Happy 500.
All right. I'll send Jeff my concept art for my cop t-shirt.
There you go. More shirts we can't wear. Therefore, we can't sell.
You're welcome.
That's what the show's about, though. Yeah, let's try to get like 12 records together.
All right.
Over the next week, and then we want to knock 1 or 2 out this weekend.
I'm in. I'm all for it.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
All right, cool.
All right, I'll talk to you later.
Good night.
Bye.